Welcome to an overview of the new Digitizer version 5 software. We'll take 20 or 30 minutes just to review some of the new features of the software. The first thing you'll notice is the new user interface. Every icon is clearly labeled, making it very easy for anyone to know exactly what to select. The toolbars are interactive depending on what has been selected in the workspace. And new toolboxes roll out to help guide the user through suggested actions for the particular selected design. It's now so much easier to manage designs. All 3 previously existing programs have been rolled into this one user interface. To manage your design, select the Manage Designs toolbox. The toolbox rolls out and the designs are seen in full 3D graphics. The software offers the opportunity to find your embroidery designs on your computer and populate them into the embroidery library, which is created by the software. You can see all designs or sort by either file type or by category, selecting only what's in that particular folder. You'll notice looking at the designs, you'll see EMB format. The software now uses the object-based EMB embroidery format as its default. The Manage Design Toolbox offers the opportunity to convert any design that is selected, one or multiple designs, into one or multiple file formats. These are then saved into the embroidery library under Machine Files, or you can browse to place it in a folder of your choice. Designs can be immediately exported from the Manage Designs toolbox, and folders can be managed. You can open a design directly or open a new design from the selected. This is a great option if you don't want to worry about overwriting your existing design. Select a design and either double-click, select Open, or select New from Selected. The design will automatically open in the workspace. The Customized Design Toolbox rolls out to offer many options to specifically change your embroidery design to fit your particular project. You can start by changing your thread chart that you're using to make sure that you have the exact colors that you see in that design. Select a thread chart from the drop-down list. To see the thread chart, select My Threads, and the thread charts will open, and you can scroll through to select either numerically or by color group. Close this dialog box, open the Resequence Docker. These dockers can be pulled apart, customized, opened, closed at your convenience. You can also select a particular part of the design and use the new Pick Color tool. Select the design and you'll notice that the design comes in grouped. To ungroup the design and select a particular part of it independently, right-click the design and select Ungroup. Type the shortcut Control-U. You can also reach a lot of these commands through the drop-down menu. Select the design, select the Arrange drop-down menu, and select Ungroup. To use the color picker, select the Color Pick tool, select the color that you would like to use, and then place it in the object where you'd like to see that color. The Escape key releases the tool. There are also new options for cycling the colors used in the design. Just click on Cycle Used Colors and you can repurpose your design, keeping the same colorway. There's a new color wheel option. Select the color wheel and select from many of the color scheme options. Move the guides to change the color scheme, changing the hue and the brightness of the design. When you have something you like, you'd select OK. This is also useful for creating a design in a single monochromatic color palette for a specific quilt or project. When you have the colors of your design selected, you could then choose to view it on a background or display color. You'll see that the background icon can be selected from the upper menu or in the Customized Design Toolbox. You can select from either solid colors to see on the screen, fabric, or actual articles. These can be factory articles or custom articles. If you have a particular garment or project that you would like to view your design on, these items can be scaled and the colors can be changed. I'll select to use a factory article and use the drop-down to select a child's t-shirt. From these selections, I can select to view the front or the back. I'll select a girl's short sleeve t-shirt, select the front. I can change the color from the drop-down menu, select more colors, or even custom colors, making it possible to select any hue or value for my project, and OK to close the dialog box. Use the mouse wheel to zoom out to see your article, select your design, and place it where you would like to see it in your finished project. The density of designs can now be altered to match the fabric they'll be embroidered on. Select the Auto Fabric function. Select to apply an auto fabric and select your fabric from the drop-down list. Select OK, and you'll be prompted whether you would like to leave existing objects unchanged or apply to all. I'll select OK. We'll zoom in close to the design, and I'll undo and redo so you can see the slight change. There may have been a change in the stitch number that you'll see in the status bar at the bottom of the design field, and also a notation is now made for jersey. I'll select to zoom out to fit, and this design information can be saved in the summary area of the design so that you know that this design was altered to stitch on a knit fabric. We also now have the opportunity to change the overall density of the design. Select the design and select to adjust the stitch spacing. Adjusting this number to a larger percentage allows the design to be much more open, and you'll notice a large change in the stitch count from 5,000 stitches from 7,000 stitches. We'll select another design by using the new tabs that go across the top of the workspace. Selecting design 1 will give me a blank canvas, and we can open the Lettering and Monogramming Toolbox. Select the Lettering tab in Object Properties and enter some text. Select your font from the drop-down menu, now much easier to use as you'll see the text that you've entered actually previewed for the different fonts that are available. There are 9 new fonts in the software. You'll notice the new easier to use dialog for the baselines, as well as new options for lettering art. Another change in the software is the opportunity to break apart text, and this breaks apart in increments. So if I begin with a sentence and break it apart, I now have 2 separate lines of text. Continue to break apart, and it's now broken into words that can be moved and edited independently, even in the Enter Text dialog box. Break apart again, and now individual letters are available. Further breaking this down will break that letter into its individual component pieces. I'll enlarge this letter and show you some of the new fonts that are available. They are 3D foam fonts. Selecting one of these automatically changes the lettering so that it stitches for fun foam to be inserted inside of the satin stitching. Zoom in on the selected area and use the new stitch player. You can see that the stitching has been designed to go over and cut away, leaving the puffy foam inside of the satin stitching. Let's now take a look at the new monogramming tools. Select monogramming, and you can open the monogramming docker to better see all of the new styles of monogram designs. There are borders, ornaments, and lettering, just simple lettering, or just the borders and lettering. Select from all new options for simple, easy to create monogramming designs. The next toolbox we'll look at is artwork. Select the Insert Artwork icon and browse in the included artwork. There's a folder for bitmap, manual, digitizing, and vector artwork. We'll open the manual digitizing and just select one of the PNG designs. Insert Artwork allows you to select from the following file types. I'll select a design and open, and then select to prepare this artwork for embroidery. That will allow me to reduce the number of colors in bitmap images. This can be quite large, from 206. I can drop that down to even something as low as 8 colors. Select OK to process. Further options allow you to save the artwork once it's been processed, to dim the artwork, or to lock it. These functions are especially helpful when manual digitizing a design. Select the Auto Digitize toolbox, and with the artwork selected, select Auto Digitize for instant embroidery. And this will instantly create stitches that you can then edit. If I undo, you could also select Click to Fill and just select individual areas and click to create an embroidery from that specific area of the design. Once stitches have been created, there are lots of new opportunities in the Edit Objects toolbox. I'll select an area of stitching, and I can now select the option. I can remove stitch angles, but I can also add my own stitch angles to a particular area of a design. This toolbox is also where you'll find Remove Overlaps. There have been improvements to the Remove Overlaps function, and a new opportunity for copying object properties between one area and another. So if you have a shape and you like the stitching in that shape, you can select to copy those object properties and then apply it to another object. Smoothing is also contained here, as well as Optimize and Stitch Edit. I'll open a new blank design, and we'll take a look at some of the new tools that you'll find in the Digitized Toolbox. These tools have been simplified and are much easier to use. Everything is labeled clearly. I'll select the Circle Oval tool and click to drag a circle and then enter. I'll use the Select tool to select a circle. With the design selected, the interactive toolbar changes. This is where I can get options for rotation, trim. If I'm working with satin, I can adjust the mitering of my corners, underlay. I can also adjust these things in object properties. We have a new option to change from fill to line, and I can undo that change. So if I digitize an open line, I can change it to a closed shape. If I digitize a fill, I can change it to a line. The menus are very interactive. If I deselect, this is where I can change from my US to metric measure. I can select a machine that I'll be using to embroider my design. And if I have the hoop selected, I'll be able to select my hoop from the drop-down menu. I'll deselect the hoop, and we'll take a look at some of the options for fill in the new Object Properties three-dimensional dialog box. I can change my stitch settings, use pop-out menus to scroll through the different fill types that I can choose from. We have some new options for fill. There's not only contour fill, there's also ripple fill. I can select a motif fill, select from the different pop-outs for motifs. I can also select from different new effects. One of the effects is Florentine, and if I switch back from a line to a fill, select that motif, fill again, and effects, I can now select the new option for a 3D warp effect. Before moving on to the Applique toolbox, let's take a look at the new graphics part of the program by switching to graphics mode. This opens up Corel Draw Essentials X6. What I like about this is it is so easy to learn. By selecting anything that I'd like to learn about, I can click and instantly get instruction in the hints dialog. There are also now videos for training built into the software to help you learn and find your way around the Corel program. The Corel side of the program also gives you more options for inserting artwork. You have a much larger list of types of file formats that you can open and process for converting to embroidery. The Bitmap Quick Trace function also helps in tracing designs to prepare for embroidery. Go back into the Embroidery tab. In the Applique Toolbox, I can quickly digitize an applique. I'll just use right clicks around my circle and enter. I can then delete my original object. Select the applique and Object Properties opens up where I can select my applique fabric from either factory. I'm going to select custom and browse, and I'll browse in the fabrics folder, select the Benartex folder, and scroll until I find a fabric selection that I like, open, and then select OK. The fabric is then added to my applique design. Select from pre-cut if you're going to use a pre-cut piece of fabric, trimming in place. We can also make adjustments to tacking stitches, and if I zoom out, I will duplicate, and I can duplicate with a right click and drag to create a clone of my original object. And with this, I'll select no tacking stitch, and for a cover type, I can choose a zigzag or a blanket stitch, and then I can adjust how far outside. If I am not careful about my trimming, I might like to leave a little bit of space to accommodate my not cutting straight against the stitching line. I'll zoom out to fit. And one more option that we have is for removing overlaps for applique. Select both items and then select Partial Applique. By selecting the blanket stitch object and moving it over, you can see that the heavy satin stitching was eliminated in the overlapping area. Selecting both objects again, we also have a new option for combining applique. And this will break them apart, but it will make the stitch out go much more quickly. Let's move to the Advanced Digitizing Toolbox and open a new design. I've created two quick rectangles to demonstrate color blending and carving stamp. Let's first take a look at the options for color blending. We now can blend two colors together. Select the profile that you'd like to use and select from the colors that you would like to blend. I'll blend a red and a yellow. Select the options for your spacing and select OK, and you'll create beautiful blended effects. Select carving stamp, and you can use built-in patterns either from the carving stamp menu. You can digitize your own or use any existing object to create a carving stamp. I'll select from the embroidery gallery, select a design, and select Use Stamp. I can then stamp my design. I have the option to resize my design, reshape, and move my design if I'd like. In the Appearance menu, I can select a raised stamp to get an embossed look. And back in Used Pattern, if I wanted to go into Carving Stamp Library, I can select from letters that are available and stamp that letter. And click again, and you get embossed carving stamps. I'll select a satin stitch design to show ambient quilting and create trapunto outlines. First, I'll need to select some satin stitching. We now have the opportunity to build 3D satin or raised satin stitching. If you select this option, then you would select the number of layers that you would like to have to raise up the appearance of this satin stitching. It's easiest to see in the stitch player, and I'll scrub this forward so you can watch these layers build one on top of the other until finally putting the top stitching over all those layers of satin stitching. Sometimes this effect is also called white work. The 3D satin stitching also has the option to create trapunto outlines. Select Create Trapunto Outlines, select a color. From the drop-down menu, you can select single or triple stitch and the amount of offset that you would like. I'll select a 1 millimeter offset and select OK. I then have outlines placed around three-dimensional satin stitching that if I place fabric over the top, I'll have a trapunto look created. This is very similar to creating outlines and offsets for an area, and this is very helpful for creating outlines for designs. The other new option that we have is for calligraphy effects. Select a satin stitch and place a check mark for calligraphy. You can then set the angle to create calligraphy designs. Another new feature is the option for guidelines. I can click to create guidelines if I need them for aligning parts of my design. To take a look at the ambience quilting effect, let's open a design, select the design, and select ambience quilting. You can select the size of your block, and again, if you would like to change from metric to US measure, select the design, ambient quilting, and now I see I have a 12-inch block. Might be a little large, so I'm going to select an 8-inch block, and my quilting type is Echo. I have different effects to choose from, and margins, spacing, and color. I'll select OK, and the quilting design, Echo Quilting, out to my outer border is created for me. Before going on to cut work and stump work, let's open the Layout tab. I'll undo my ambient quilting and show you a feature for the new buttonhole edition. If I select a buttonhole, I can select from many styles. I can select multiple buttonholes and create them in a row. I can select my buttonhole, select the number of buttonholes that I would like, and then place the buttonhole on a design. Select my Edit Objects toolbox and select Remove Overlaps. Zoom in, select the buttonhole and move it. You can see that the stitching underneath has been removed and the buttonhole is placed in the design. Let's finish looking at the Layout toolbox. We'll select the option to insert a design. I'll select from the Flowers menu and scroll down to find a design that would wreath or mirror in a nice way. We have a circular layout to create radial designs, the opportunity to set a work area and copy to corners, great for creating quilting designs. We can instantly mirror and copy designs vertically and horizontally, as well as copy and mirror in both directions. Select the design and open up the Customized Design toolbox to select Optimize Color Changes. This will resequence the design for a much better stitch out. Let's look at the Multi-Hooping toolbox. I'll open a design using File, Open Recent Designs, which lets me scroll in three-dimensional graphics for a design that was opened recently. I'll select my design and zoom out. This quilting design cannot be covered by a single hoop. Before I select the option for multi-hooping, you'll want to go into Software Settings and Embroidery Settings in the Multi-Hooping tab and make sure that you've selected the option to add registration marks on output. You can select from small, medium, or large margins. The small margin will be the most accurate. Select OK and select multi-hooping. Select the option to add an additional hoop and position that hoop so that the entire design is covered with extra space around the outside of the design for more accuracy. Select the Digitized Splitting Guide and work your way through your design to actually divide the design in two. The reference marks will then be added, X's, or you can digitize your own reference marks, and you can check your calculate hoopings, and this will be done in two hoopings with reference marks to align the design. Let's go to the Cut Work and Stump Work toolbox and open up a cut work design. We'll use the My Designs tab to open and manage designs. Select from the Stump Work folder and select the Stump Work Pair Embroidery. Stump work is a three-dimensional embroidery technique. It consists of a base design, which you'll see is the pair, and this part of the embroidery is what is going to stitch on your finished project. If you output the design or save exporting to the machine, the only part of this design that would be saved would be this base design, the pair and stem. The leaf is a three-dimensional component that's stitched out in another hooping. Let's take a look at that by double-clicking on the stumpwork portion or the three-dimensional portion of the design. You'll notice that the design does not come centered in the hoop. In Software Settings, Embroidery Settings, under the Hoop tab, you can always change that by selecting to position the hoop around the design. This is the three-dimensional component that will be stitched separately. Take a look at how the stitch out proceeds in the stitch player. The first stitching is very heavy and creates the three-dimensional object. The next part of the process is that an outline is put down, and this outline is for placing a wire. Place the wire inside the guidelines. Then a tack down stitch will tack that wire into place, and you don't need to change threads between these processes, but we need the thread stops. The final layer covers the wire and the understitching. The wire can extend out of the base of the design. A stabilizing stitch goes around the outside of the design, and then you can select the option for cutting needles to cut the leaf, or just take scissors and cut carefully around the satin stitching. This design is only saved from this screen in the Stumpwork dialog. Select Save Stumpwork Subdesign. At this point, you can see your subdesign is saved in your My Machine files. You'll see the Stumpwork Pear wired leaf, and this design is sent to the machine separately from the base design. Let's return to the base design. In the Cutwork and Stumpwork Toolbox, you also have the option to create many types of cutwork and stumpwork borders. Take a look at one of my applique and cutwork designs. I was able to digitize my own cutwork border and select the option for cutting only. No stabilizing stitches were created, just the design for the cutting needles. I can then go into applique and create the corresponding applique design for that cutting file. In this instance, the cutwork and the applique designs would need to be sent to the machine separately. This is easy to do by selecting one of the designs, select to cut that design, open up a new design, and paste the design into this workspace. It's a great time to look at the Output Design Toolbox, the final toolbox that we'll cover. This gives you the option to save your design in the EMB or JAN file formats. Export Design allows you to select from the different machine file formats for exporting your design to the place that you would choose by browsing in the dialog box. You can also send a design directly to the machine or write the design to any USB stick that you have available. The correct EMB or ORD files are created through this process. You can print preview your design. You can capture a design image with a transparent background in full 3D graphics to save on your computer. Digitizer version 5 software no longer requires a dongle and also offers a free 30-day free trial, and that is a full working version.